You're listening to Murder Not Murdering with Aaron,
And Autumn,
a true crime podcast about murder and murdering.
but we are not murderers.
Okay, everybody, we are back, and this is a very exciting and special episode.
Oh, it is?
Autumn, we talked about this. It's our 50th episode that we have recorded ever.
Well, honestly, she did tell me about this,
Show did.
but I didn't realize it was this episode.
Do you know what? I was talking to Tim today, and I just kept thinking to myself, why didn't I do like a murder that had 50 killings or someone got 50 years?
We didn't plan very well, did we?
No, we, for some reason, did great for St. Patrick's Day, but did shitty on our 50th episode. No, I mean, I'm not saying this episode's shitty. It's going to be great, but
we didn't plan this one. Like, we've done like Alcatraz, and then we did
the vault.
The vault, and we did John Walsh. We did John Walsh on accident. That wasn't even planned.
That wasn't, no. And that was like a big episode too. That was like one of our milestone episodes, the 20th or something like that. I can't remember.
Something like that, but we didn't even plan it.
No,
we're not on it this time. Sorry, guys.
We dropped the ball on the celebratory 50th.
It's okay.
That's okay.
Any case is a good case.
That's right. And mine is a really insane mystery.
Ooh, mine's kind of mysterious too.
I was
I'm landing airplanes in my backyard.
Sounds like it.
Just for everyone listening, we do have things that Aaron works really hard to edit out, but if you hear something like that, it's because there's cars in the real world.
Yeah, we're both at our homes.
Yes.
In our home studios, because this is a labor of love.
Yes.
And sometimes there's like motorcycles going by, and we try our very best. And I struggle with the editing, but
Erin,
I try.
She's the one that edits. She's the one that does all the hard work for that.
I also spend a lot of time deleting ums and uhs, so you're welcome.
Oh my God. How many was it? The last episode she sent me, it was like 160 or something like that.
Yeah. Because it'll flag them and let me know that there were that many. The problem is I can't just blindly use AI to take them out. I have to go through and make sure that they weren't a mistake. You know, AI is not quite there for the technology of
that
really taking stuff out. So I have to make sure that they're real ums and uhs and not like the beginning of a word or like atmosphere or things of that nature.
Yes.
But you learn a lot about yourself.
From Erin.
You learn a lot about yourself editing, I will say.
I know, she's like, we're really breathy. And I'm like, oh, shoot, we are?
The first time, I think just hearing myself on a microphone, I'm like, am I gasping for air all the time? Am I dying? What is going on here?
We're just like, ooh.
I mean, I honestly had to edit out so many like, I'm like, oh my God, can I not breathe? What's my problem? And I found out that I say the word like about 1 million times.
and I have a really squeaky chair.
Yeah. And ums and uhs, like, look at me. Guys, I'm telling you, I say a lot too.
I say a lot, and Dustin always looks at me and he's like, yes, I do know. Why do you always ask me that?
If you ever want to not feel great about yourself, edit a podcast.
And then have your best friend take pictures of all of your mistakes and send them to you.
Well, that's the fun part. And also, I contribute to more or at least half or more of the ums and uhs. So there it is. Also, I make more mistakes when reading than you do. But I'm also dyslexic, so that
this is true.
Part of the fun of all of this. Autumn makes a lot less mistakes. The only thing that sometimes there are pronunciations of words that we redo with Autumn.
Yes.
Unless I like to leave them in like muffins, one of
I
my
know.
favorites.
That's just
and
my
that wasn't a
personality.
mistake. That wasn't a mistake. That was just
truly
a
thought
phrase.
that's how it was said. I mean, Dustin
Hilarious.
always is catching me like oscillate. It's not oscillate, it's oscillate, or ominous. I say omnious, stuff like that. Just I don't know why.
Isms.
I think I get it from my dad. He says breath kissed instead of breakfast, and he cannot say it correctly, no matter how many. And my mom, if you had her say hot tar, it's hot hotar.
I just think that there are things that make your cadence yourself. So a lot of times I don't always edit those or change those because that's literally who we are.
This is
and
true.
We're not out here to change that. We're not out here to pretend to be anything we're not. We talk exactly as we do.
Yes.
I swear a lot.
She does swear a lot.
She's a drunken sailor all the time, especially if I'm wine and crime timing, then I'm really drinking wine, y'all.
This is true. And I really laugh a lot, like even in inappropriate moments.
Yeah, mostly over murders. You laugh a lot. No, I'm just kidding.
Honestly, though, I do. I have this weird, I don't know if it's a nervous laugh, but I always laugh.
We do this just for fun. This is definitely not a money-making situation yet.
No. Hint, hint. Hi, guys. Do you like our podcast?
Please
like and subscribe.
Like, subscribe, share with people. It really goes a long ways if you do share with people.
It truly does. And we are so thankful for all of our listeners. We have quite a lot, and we're very, very thankful.
If we could not have to pay for all of the recording equipment and studio out of our own pockets, that would be cool.
Yes, that would be our goal.
Yeah, that would be our goal. But to do that, we have to have more listeners and we have to have more feedback coming in, partly so that we can establish that we would be a good place to place ads.
Yes. We need the
please make sure to do that. Oh, great. My husband just walked in and he's mooning me. Get out of here.
We've already banned you for the day.
Can you shut the door though, for real? This is what I said. I was in a home studio. There it is, folks.
No,
thank God we don't video record. If we did, then you would have seen my husband's ass right across the fucking screen.
I don't want to see that. Sorry, Josh.
I don't want to see that right now. Like, get out of here. So annoying.
I would have cats in the background yelling at me. I have to lock them out.
I had to edit out a cat fight once, so that was cool.
This is true. They do fight.
Yeah.
I mean, they are brother and sister, just like me and my brother.
Yeah. Anywho, we have got 2 new cases for you this week, and it is our 50th episode.
Woo woo.
And we're celebrating by not doing anything that has to do with the number 50.
No.
So there you are.
Woo woo.
You're wooting a lot. Autumn's a woot girl today.
I am always a woot girl.
And Autumn goes first.
I do.
So I'm excited to see what you brought for our 50th episode, Autumn.
I know. Dang it.
I'm here for the mysteries, though. I keep stumbling upon ones that I like to list out a grouping of ones that I would like to do. Mm-hmm. And then in my research lately from that original episode that I wanted to do, I keep finding other ones. Ooh. And then I have to hyper research and find new things. So it's been my research lately has been kind of crazy, but I'm so happy because I've found better episodes than what I was planning on doing anyhow.
The one I'm doing today, actually, I had only half written it until you reminded me of it. And so I finished it, and it's the one I'm doing.
Yay, I'm so happy because I was so curious.
She stumbled across it and she was like, you should do this one. I'm like, actually, it's on my list to have it half written.
But I purposely did not deep dive it because I wasn't going to do it myself since it was very up your alley. And I didn't want to know all the details of how or what or any of it. I just saw the headline and that it had a connection that I knew you would love.
Yes.
So I'm excited to find out what actually happened.
Yes. And I also am going to have an excerpt from Reddit. Like,
okay, cool.
Going down a rabbit hole. And you just have to hear it when I'm done.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay. I'm doing the case of Tim Molnar. This is the story of Tim Molnar, a 19-year-old aeronautical mechanics student from Daytona Beach, Florida, whose disappearance has haunted his family for over 30 years. Was it a case of a young man starting a new life, or was it something far more sinister at play? Let's dive into Tim's story, a case that was left unresolved until a decade later when an unexpected lead brought some answers. It all started on January 24th, 1984. Tim Molnar, a 19-year-old student at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, left his home that morning to go to class. He never made it there. The last person to see him was his 14-year-old brother, Frank, who Tim dropped off at school. After that, Tim vanished without a trace. When Tim didn't come home that night, his parents knew something was wrong. Tim was always punctual, always home at the exact same time, so his absence was immediately concerning. His parents called all his friends, hoping someone might know where he was, but no one had any answers. Worry and fear set in, and it wasn't long before they called the police. That night, his family received 2 strange phone calls. When they picked up, there was nothing but static on the line. They believed it could have been Tim trying to reach out, but got nervous and hung up.
That's so sad.
Awful to know that that night he had been calling.
If it was him.
Right. I mean, that's very true. Because back then there was really hard to trace phone calls. It's not like now where you can look at the phone records.
Yeah, totally.
The days after Tim disappeared, relatives and friends hung up missing person flyers in the city, hoping that someone had a lead for them. 2 weeks later, they found out Tim had stopped at a gas station in Lake City, Florida, and paid for gas with his parents' credit card. His parents had received their credit card bill and noticed the payment from the gas station that neither of them had stopped at. They went to the gas station and showed the station attendant a photo of Tim, hoping that he would recognize Tim and shed some light on the visit. He recognized him and recalled that Tim was traveling alone. Then, months later, his family received a letter from an auto impound company in Atlanta, Georgia, informing them that Tim's car had been left in a parking lot near the Greyhound bus station 6 days after his disappearance.
That's a long time to be in between, finding things out. And fucking Atlanta's a pretty decent drive.
Yes. And if you think about it, 6 days is a really long time, like you said, to not have this piece of information when you're looking for a missing person.
100%.
Tim's wallet, which contained $0, credit card, and ID were found inside the car. But other valuable items, like his expensive tool set, a new car stereo, and a bicycle, were missing. There was no sign of Tim.
That's odd.
Super odd.
Yeah. I mean, the question is, were they trying to stage it as a robbery? Or clearly
right.
he wouldn't go anywhere without the ID and all of that.
Yeah, that's the part
if he were to go
I'm just
on,
like, what?
If he were to go on the Greyhound bus, he would have taken those things with him. So he, assumably, this is where he went missing.
Mm-hmm.
Unless someone dumped his car there.
Right. As if that wasn't strange enough, Tim had withdrawn nearly all of his money from his savings account before he disappeared. But he left $10 behind. Was it a sign? Was he planning to return? The mystery deepened when, several months after his disappearance, Tim's family found evidence that suggested he had changed his identity, or at least made plans to disappear.
What?
I know. Like,
I didn't read any of this, so I'm genuinely so worried, like concerned.
but here's where it gets even more mysterious. Over a decade later, on January 31st, 1996, something unexpected happened. The case was re-aired on a television program. At this point, I feel like maybe they should be sending me residuals because I ride so hard for them.
Yeah.
Because, duh, it's Unsolved Mysteries, the television program I'm talking about. But honestly, I feel like I work for them or something secretly.
Well, I think the thing is that Unsolved Mysteries has such a long time of being on the air that they've covered so many cases.
Yes.
It's almost shocking when they aren't linked in some way to Unsolved Mysteries.
100%. Like any of these big cases, I feel like at least spent an episode on Unsolved Mysteries.
So often, yeah.
So a viewer named Stephen Cole called in, and he recognized Tim's clothes from the case, claiming they were the same clothes he had found on a body frozen in ice in Neosho, Wisconsin, 10 years earlier.
Frozen in ice.
Frozen in ice.
I just think like cavemen, that they find like full bodies frozen in ice.
Right. Like, I don't know if it was just in the woods, it never says, or if it was like in a body of water, but it was frozen in ice.
I feel like to be frozen in ice, I would assume it came out of a body of water.
Yes, I would assume so too, but they just never say.
Weird.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Stephen contacted the medical examiner, and after some investigation, Tim's family was contacted. They provided DNA samples, and in November of that year, DNA testing confirmed that the body was indeed Tim Molnar. But that wasn't the end of the mystery.
What?
The keys found with the body matched the locks on the Molnar family home, suggesting that Tim had somehow ended up in Wisconsin. But the cause of death couldn't be determined.
Wait, so he had his keys with him?
He had his keys with him.
But he left everything else behind. That's so weird.
Everything else behind.
Or the killer may have.
Yes, and he had taken all of his life savings, and there was no money found in that wallet that he had discarded in the car.
That is so weird.
Mm-hmm. There were no signs of trauma, and no one could figure out why or how Tim traveled all the way to Wisconsin. Despite this identification, the answers were still elusive. His family held a memorial service for him and buried Tim in Daytona Beach, Florida. But his death remains unsolved. There's still no clarity on what happened to him and how he ended up in that frozen woodland in Wisconsin. Sadly, Tim's parents never saw the full resolution to the case. His mother, Helen, passed away in 2004, and his father, Michael, died in 2012. Their search for answers ended long before they could totally, truly understand what happened to their son. So what happened to Tim Molnar? Did he disappear on purpose, or was something more sinister at play? The answers are still unclear, but one thing remains certain. Tim's disappearance is a tragedy that continues to echo through the years, leaving behind a family that will never stop searching for the truth. Now, this is where Reddit comes in play.
Okay.
I can't use Reddit as a fact source, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to reveal the name of the poster or reveal the name of the suspect that they name in this, because I don't want to be the one that says this guy did it and he's like an innocent old grandpa that's sitting on a chair, never heard a fly in his life.
Yeah. So we do try to deal 90% in facts.
Yes. This is very convincing though, and I have to read the excerpt from Reddit. It just shines a lot of like behind the scenes onto it if it's true. Okay. So that's the problem. Like I can't totally verify it.
One thing that I did read when I was like skimming through was that he had an inheritance coming to him.
Yes, $50,000.
And so that would make you go, well, why would he disappear when he knew that this money
He
was
didn't
coming?
know.
Wait, he did.
It
That's
happened
right. He didn't
after
know.
he disappeared. A family
Yeah.
member passed away and left that
And left it
inheritance
to him. Yeah. Sorry, I just remembered that.
No, that's correct. The only reason I left that out of there is because they found him deceased and I didn't see it relevant, but they did, yes. In the beginning, before anybody knew what happened to him, they were like, why wouldn't he come back for this money? But
that's what I thought. I mean,
why.
obviously, see, I did not research.
No, you're totally fine, but I have to read this because this
let's hear.
This like made the hair on my arms stand up.
I'm so curious.
So this was posted by somebody 3 years ago, and it's been active as of 6 months ago. So I just have to, this like all makes total sense, and I'm convinced that this person knows, but obviously we take it with a grain of salt.
Totally.
So here's what they say. Back in 1984, a body was found in Washington County, Wisconsin. It was a young boy found with clothes matching a missing case of a boy named Tim Molnar. Tim was a 19-year-old boy from Daytona Beach, Florida. The morning he went missing, he dropped his 14-year-old brother off at school before driving to class. He never arrived at school, and later his car was found at a Greyhound bus station in Atlanta, Georgia. So basically,
that's pretty much all we know anyway.
That's what, yes. And so I'm going to skip the part where they are saying about the case, because obviously I just covered that.
Totally.
So then the person goes, then the next information we have was his body was found in Wisconsin, found by Stephen Cole. Later, the story was told by Stephen on Unsolved Mysteries in 1995. Now, I have information that might be prudent to this story.
This is the Reddit person saying that. Oh.
In the 1980s, my family had a friend named, and I'm just going to use this as the first initial, named R. He was friends with my uncle and spent a lot of time with him and my aunt. My parents would come down to Wisconsin from Minnesota, and R would often be there. My parents never liked him and often found him odd. Speaking to my father, he told me that from the minute he met R, he knew something was off. R would often show up to my family property only down the street from where Tim was found, uninvited. My dad says now that he thought that R was coming to scope out the land for something weird. Our property was remote farmland that had a long driveway leading up to the house, a perfect place for a body to be hidden. R, now in his 80s, lived in Wisconsin and flew planes. He had a small plane that he would often fly between Florida and Wisconsin. I have been told that R had a young man staying in his small shack of a home who would be coming through town. Now that information isn't confirmed, but it seems to be true. Later in life, R was convicted of sexual assault of a child. He moved to Arizona and can still be found on the sexual offenders registry. The thing that I find odd in these two people together is this. Even though Tim Molnar was technically of age, the fact that he was from Florida, where R would often be, then found less than a mile away from where he would spend a lot of his time, and for R to be arrested in 2001 for sexual assault of a child seems too odd to be a coincidence.
Well, and the fact that he flew planes makes it so that he could have traveled.
Was an aeronautical...
But he could have flown,
yes.
As far as like
Tim
how far
was in
he
aeronautical.
went.
So that means that he had a connection to planes. So he could have met him that way.
Hooked him in by using that.
Yes.
Maybe saying that he would fly with him or something like that. And that's how he was able to get him to Wisconsin.
Yes. Stephen Cole, the kid who found Tim's body, lived across the street from my aunt and uncle's house. His family has been their neighbors for many years. The fact that R would spend a lot of time showing up to my family's property uninvited across the street from the man who found Tim's body also seems odd to be a coincidence. I will say, back in 2019, my brother and I put all this information on the internet. We posted on Unsolved Mysteries, My Favorite Murder, and other Reddit pages. We contacted Milwaukee Homicide, sent the information to the FBI, but nothing was ever done about it. And so
weird. I'm so surprised that no one followed up. I'm sure there's some sort of lead investigator or somebody, but like I'm so surprised that no one has followed through with this.
Same. And so they also, he or she posts the actual letter that they sent to the FBI.
Wow.
And it says, I have family in Wisconsin. When we are driving past the park area, my father remarks how family friends found a skeleton known as the Monchie skeleton while looking for shed antlers. Later, while watching Unsolved Mysteries covering the disappearance of Tim Molnar, he makes a connection to the unidentified body he found years before. Tells L.E. and lo and behold, it's Molnar. My father remarks how he always suspected a former friend of his, brother-in-law, of committing the crime because he was a creepy guy and was convinced of a second-degree sexual assault against a child in 2001 and lived in town. My sister and I are like, WTF, and ask him if he ever tipped off law enforcement. He's like, well, no, we can't believe it, but the evidence isn't really beyond. He's as peso at this point. I don't know what that means, but we are headed to my uncle's who knew this man. The man he knew was R. And as we ask more and more questions of our uncle, the more damning the picture becomes. R, as he was known, was a strange man who lived nearby in a barn-like shack, where he would often let young male drifters crash, rotating through. From this shack, he was also a poacher, killing animals illegally and surviving off of them. Wow. My uncle remembers how he tried to burn the bones in a furnace to hide the poaching and failed, and began looking for other methods of disposal. He also would leave in the winter to Florida, where he had a plane, and would often fly back and forth, but would often drive down and fly out. Tim disappeared in January 1984 from Florida, leaving his car at a Greyhound station, taking a bike with him that was found with his body all the way in Wisconsin. Like I said, he was later convicted of pedophilia in 2001 and had infiltrated a Christian boys and girls club. He would also take long unannounced walks on my family's property, making me wonder what he was really up to.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm trying to remember more. I have a feeling I've forgotten a super creepy piece of the Florida connection, but wanted to put this out there for my conscience and for Tim. If this guy had something with him, then I have to say something. But oddly, when I contacted my aunt, she said she wanted nothing to do with it at all. And my uncle had been sort of defensive when talking about it. But I think he's dealing with guilt from being friends with R and not realizing who he was. And like I said, my father literally had all the info and never reported it. So here's me bringing this to light.
Wow.
I just thought that was just too much to not post.
It's written in such a way, though, like the hometown stories that they do on Murder.
Oh, yes.
On My Favorite Murder. Yeah, no, that all really does make sense.
Yes,
I'm so surprised that no one's taken it seriously.
Same, especially since he was already convicted.
Or maybe had the time to investigate it or question. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like, that all really does make sense of like how he could have gotten so far. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they're close to the person who found the body, all of it is very suspect. Interesting.
I agree. So I thought we should highlight that because apparently they've been reaching out to people. I don't know. Obviously, we don't know how much truth there is to it, but
sure,
we had that disclaimer, so you can do with it what you want. But I felt very compelled to share that information.
Yeah, I really hope that there's some sort of follow-up eventually.
Same. Absolutely.
If we find anything else, we will let you guys know.
Yes. If you have any theories or thoughts on Tim's case, feel free to share them with us on IG at Murder Not Murdering. You can also reach out if you have any other mysteries you want us to dive into. And my sources were Unsolved Mysteries, Wiki Fandom, ColdCaseWorld.com, Reddit, and Wisconsin State Journal.
Wow, that was a good one.
It was good. There were so many unanswered questions, and then
that's
I
what
came
makes it
across
hard.
That Reddit, and I went down that rabbit hole. And the fact that they have that plane connection, I truly think that he was like, hey, you want to fly my plane, or do you want to get in my plane, or something like that. And
I've got a puppy in my plane.
Yes. Being so into planes was like, absolutely, I do.
Yeah, it would make sense that that's how the connection would be, especially with so weird that he was in Florida and then Wisconsin.
Ended up in Wisconsin. And his car was found at a Greyhound bus in Atlanta, Georgia.
Which
so
could
it's
have,
just like,
there's several options, right? He could have said that I'll pick you up there, take a Greyhound bus to said place, and then we'll fly my plane. Or he could have taken the car, drove it. You know, the murderer could have taken the car and left it at that Greyhound bus to throw people off. I'm glad that they had the DNA evidence, though, to confirm that's who Tim was, at least for the family to have him back.
So not have to keep searching for somebody that's never going to come home.
So many unanswered questions. That's bizarre.
It's just a mystery that just keeps on going.
Well, I'm about to wreck your guys' world with the fact that we've got another mystery to try to solve here.
What's it on? Unsolved Mysteries?
No.
Oh man, that's unusual.
Sorry about it, but
so that's good though. I probably don't know it then.
Mine's very old. So my case is only titled by me.
Okay.
What happened in room 1046?
I like it.
The time was 11:03 on the morning of Friday, January 4th, 1935. The bright white light on the telephone switchboard at the Hotel President in Kansas City, Kansas, for room 1046 went dark. This was the third time that the operator had noticed that the phone was off the hook. The first time was observed at 7 a.m. Randolph, the bellhop, diligently walked to the door of room 1046. He was met with a do not disturb sign hung on the handle. He knocked on the door anyway. Then he knocked again. No answer. He knocked a third time and nothing. So he knocked one more time when he heard a muffled masculine voice, low and gruff, that said, "Come in, turn on the lights."
No.
Though Randolph had only interacted a few times with the man who had been staying in room 1046, this voice was not familiar. He reached for the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The door had been locked from the inside. Randolph paused and waited for someone to open the door. Still nothing and no sounds of movement. Randolph assumed that the man was half asleep in bed and said through the door, "Your telephone is off the hook, sir." And then he left.
What? That was it?
Yep, story's over.
I knew it. Man, that is mysterious.
No, he just assumed he was asleep and he was waking the man up, so he just left. An hour and a half later, the phone was still off the hook, so they sent Howard, another bellhop, to check on the man again. This was all very unusual. Howard used his master key to enter the room and found it completely dark. The shades were drawn, and the light in the hallway illuminated a man who was laying naked on the bed, and there was a large spot surrounding him. The phone and its stand had both been knocked over, so Howard picked them up, returning the receiver to its cradle, and he thought the man may have been drunk, so he left. Now it's 11:03 in the morning, and curiously, the light goes dark on the switchboard again. Remember, Howard just put it back on the hook, and now it's off again. Randolph proceeded upstairs, but what he discovered as the door swung open was something he would never forget. He later told the Kansas City Star, "When I entered the room, this man was within 2 feet of the door, on his knees and elbows, holding his head in his hands. I noticed some blood on his head. Then I turned the light on. I looked around and saw blood on the walls, on the bed, and in the bathroom. This frightened me, and I immediately left the room and went downstairs. He called police, and when they arrived, they began to piece together the gruesome scene. They found the man in 1046 with a thin white cotton rope tied tightly around his neck. His hands and feet were bound with now blood-stained white ropes in primitive knots. He had been severely beaten. His skull was fractured. He had been stabbed multiple times in the chest, stomach, and legs, with his wrists slashed, and he also had bruising on his neck from a possible strangulation. Shockingly, the man was still alive, but he was barely hanging on. The police tried to get details from him, asking him, "Who did this to you? Who hurt you?" "Nobody," he replied. He said his injuries were from falling against a bathtub. He denied doing any self-harm, and then he fell unconscious. The police found glass and blood in the bathroom, and there were 2 drinking glasses shattered in the sink. It appears as though the man had maybe tried to get a glass of water, but was hindered by the cords that were bounding him. There were no weapons in the room, so police concluded none of the injuries could have been self-inflicted. While at the hospitals, doctors determined that the injuries were most likely 6 to 7 hours old, which meant they occurred prior to the first time Randolph knocked on the door around 7 a.m. Unfortunately, the man did succumb to his injuries and died after midnight that evening. 2 days prior, on Wednesday, January 2nd, a man signed into the room 1046 under the name Roland T. Owen. Various hotel members said he was between the age of 20 and 35, with brown hair and a large distinct scar on the side of his head. He also had cauliflower ear on his left ear, and that's often seen with professional fighters or boxers.
Yes, Killian used to wrestle, and a bunch of his teammates used to get that, and I was honestly traumatized because you can never fix it. It's there forever.
No, it's there forever.
And I was worried it was going to happen to him.
Yeah. Randolph took him up to his room when he checked in. He noticed that Roland didn't have any luggage or any belongings. The only thing he had with him was toothpaste, a toothbrush, and a hairbrush, which were stored in his pocket. When he arrived in the room, it was observed that he set them out, lined up in the bathroom. Later that day, a maid named Mary came up to the room to tidy up. Roland was inside. It was dark. The shades were shut and the lights were off. There was one dim lamp on in the corner of the room. Despite all of this, he told her she should come in and clean. She said he appeared paranoid or nervous. When she was leaving, he told her to keep the door unlocked because he was expecting a guest to come in and join him soon. At around 4 p.m., Mary returned with fresh towels. Upon entering the room, she encountered Roland laying in bed in the dark, awake and fully clothed.
Oh.
The door was unlocked, and on the table there was a note that read, "Dawn, I'll be back in 15 minutes. Wait." She left, and the following day, at 10:30 a.m., she returned to tidy up the room. But this time, the door was locked from the outside. You see, when you are using this type of lock, it would be fully locked from the outside, and you would not be able to unlock it from the inside. So that means someone had to have locked him in the room. She was surprised to find Roland sitting silently in the dark. She had assumed that he was gone because the door was locked. Usually if you leave the room, you would lock the door and be gone. Like I said, you can't open it from the inside. It was only lockable from the outside. While she was in the room, he took a phone call and she recalled him saying, "No, Dawn, I don't want to eat. I just had breakfast. No, I'm not hungry." So she returned again at 4 p.m. When she knocked on the door, a rough voice that was clearly not Roland said, "Who is it?" She explained that she was bringing in fresh towels. The same men's voice said they didn't need any new towels. Mary had taken the soiled towels that morning, so she knew there weren't any in the room. But she didn't say anything else, and she left. Ironically, the woman in room 1048 next door was a woman named Jean Owen. She was of no relation to her neighbor and had no idea who he was.
That's
it's just weird that they have same last name. However, she did tell police that she heard noises on her floor throughout the night that was consisting largely of men and women talking loudly and cursing. She considered calling the front desk, but she never did. Charles, the elevator operator for the graveyard shift at the hotel, said he started work a little before midnight on January 3rd. For the first hour and a half of his shift, he was pretty busy, but around 1:30, business had tapered off. There seemed to be a fairly lively party in room 1055. As he puts in his statement, sometime in the first 3 hours of his shift, he said, "I took a woman that I recognized as being a woman who frequents the hotel with different men in different rooms. It is my impression from this woman's actions that she's a commercial woman. She's a working girl, see?" He didn't say that part. That was just me.
I like the accent you spun on it as well.
I love a transatlantic. I'll do it anytime. I took her to the 10th floor. She made inquiries about the room 1026. About 5 minutes later, I received a signal to come back up to the 10th floor. Upon arriving, I met the same woman, and she was wondering why the man she was meeting was not in his room. She remained in the hotel for about 30 to 40 minutes. Then I received a call to go back to the 10th floor. When I went up there, the woman appeared and came down in the elevator to the lobby. An hour later, she returned in the company of a man. I took them to the 9th floor. I later received a signal to go to the 9th floor about 4:15 a.m. This is when the same woman came down from the 9th floor and left the hotel. In the period about 15 minutes later, a man came down the elevator from the 9th floor complaining he couldn't sleep and was going out for a while. Was this woman actually searching for 1046 instead of 1026? Was she actually there to see Roland? Could this woman be the female voice heard in the room? Did they take the stairs from the 10th floor to the 9th floor to show that they weren't associated with what happened? I don't know. Roland T. Owen had no identification, no belongings, and bizarrely, his socks, shoes, overcoat, and hat that he had arrived in were missing from the room. There was also no soap or toothbrush, toothpaste, or comb that he had brought in there. My suspicion is they had hoped that he would have passed away and left nothing to identify him with.
I think you're right.
He was found naked. There was nothing in his room at all tied to him. The only clues police found in the room were an unsmoked cigarette, a lady's hairpin, a safety pin, a necktie label, and all were found on the rug near the bed. There was also 4 fingerprints pulled from the telephone and prints from the glass in the bathroom. They presumed that the prints were female because of the size of the finger marks, but they were never able to link them to anyone. We did not have DNA technology, so nothing could be taken from the glasses or the cigarette. Police tried to delve into the life of Roland T. Owen and concluded that was not his real name. There was no history at all. They did know that he had stayed at a few other hotels and used different names, including one with a guest named Don Kelso. Unfortunately, nothing ever came from this information. We do know that he had that phone call with someone named Don, and we know that he also wrote on that note to Don. Without identification, it was decided that he would be buried in a grave for unclaimed people. They had made the announcement and then received a phone call at Melody McGilly Funeral Home from an anonymous man insisting that they buried Roland in Memorial Park Cemetery and offered to pay the full burial cost, which was $25, which would be about $600 in today's money. Shortly after, the money arrived in a rolled-up newspaper, and 13 American Beauty roses were sent to his funeral with a note that read, "Love forever, Louise." According to one source, the caller said, "I'm doing this for my sister," specifically to the florist. According to that same source, the unknown man who called up to pay for the funeral expenses explained that Roland had cheated on a girl and that he, the girl, and Roland had a little meeting in room 1046. Hotel staff did recall seeing a man and woman come out of 1046 the morning prior to discovering Roland. They seemed to be in a hurry. Finally, the man said on the phone, "Cheaters always get what's coming to them." And he hung up the phone. Again, this is all hearsay, so we don't really know what took place. It sounds like the source that they're talking about is the florist that spoke to him, but I cannot confirm. In the spring of 1936, a year and a half later, the American Weekly printed a story about what had happened as a mystery. They included a photo and sketch of Roland, hoping someone would recognize him by those distinctive markers like his scar on his head and the cauliflower ear. But that's when they got a break. Ruby Ogletree identified the man as her son. She revealed that he had left her family in Birmingham, Alabama in April 1934 when he was 19 years old. His real name and identity was Artemis Ogletree. She also explained that the scar on his scalp above his ear was the result of an accident during his childhood where he was burned by hot grease. At one point, he had also had hopes of becoming a professional wrestler. The scar on his head was very distinctive. If you do go to our Instagram page, you'll see photos and you'll see it's not something that you would miss. He's missing like a big chunk of hair, which apparently he tried to comb over, but it did not cover this massive scar on his head.
Right.
After leaving home, he had handwritten letters to his mother on a regular basis. As time went on, the letters slowly stopped. Ruby explained to police that she had received 3 typed letters from Artemis from 3 different cities. In January, just weeks after his death, she received a typewritten letter from her son saying that he was going to New York City. The text of the letter had struck her as odd, especially the fact that it was not handwritten, given that she knew her son did not know how to type. In April, another typed letter arrived, this one saying that Artemis was sailing for France. On August 12th, 1935, 8 months after her son's murder, she got a long-distance call from Memphis, Tennessee. The male caller stated that he was a good friend of her son's. He identified himself as Godfrey Jordan and said that he had met Artemis Ogletree in Cairo, Egypt, where Ogletree had saved him from a band of thugs. The conversation lasted 45 minutes and left Ruby unsettled.
Yeah.
In 1935, she had written to the State Department to see if her son had a passport and to custom authorities to see if he could set sail without one. She also wrote to the American consulate in Cairo and to the FBI. In January 1936, a year after her son was killed, she even wrote to President Franklin Roosevelt saying, "I fear he has fallen into some gang, or something has happened to him. He has always been a good boy and has high ideals. I simply must find some trace of him. If he's in trouble, I want to know."
Wow, she wrote the president? Wow.
Ruby told police that she believed that the man on the phone call was actually Joe Simpson, the friend who Artemis left home with when he was 19. Her conviction grew stronger upon confronting Joe Simpson on December 28th, 1939. Now we're several years past the time he had passed away. She said, "In talking with the boy, Joe Simpson, I was reasonably convinced that he was the person who talked to me from Memphis, Tennessee, 7 months after my son was killed," she wrote to KCPD detectives. He did say he believed that the case would never break, as there were no clues and nothing left for the G-men to work on. I said Kansas City can well boast of it being the perfect crime. He laughed and said it is. They'll never get the ones who killed him. Ruby
That's
said
creepy.
Right? Ruby said eventually she looked him square in the eyes and told him she would know the voice that talked to her from Memphis. When she said that, he turned red, dropped his eyes, and was acting nervous.
Of course he was. Because I think a mother knows.
Almost like he knew, she knew it was him. According to Ruby, Joe then promised her in quotations, a badly typed letter that Artemis allegedly had wrote to him, but he never arrived at the appointed time to hand over the letter. So that's where that part ends. Ruby tried. The police tried. There were few suspects, and even the FBI didn't find anything conclusive. Frustratingly, identifying Artemis didn't give investigators the clues they needed. This created only more questions. Otto Higgins, the police chief at the time, is quoted in an interdepartmental memo saying, "The case came nearer to being the perfect crime than any other murder Kansas City has ever seen in his quarter century of being a detective." In 2003, we're jumping way far ahead, John Horner, a librarian at the Kansas City Public Library, received an anonymous phone call. The caller said that they were going through boxes of a deceased individual when they found newspaper clippings about the mystery in room 1046. What's more, the caller said that the box also contained something mentioned in the newspaper clippings, but they never said what that thing was. To this day, the truth behind what happened in room 1046 remains unknown. The latest notes in the police department cold case files dating back as far as the 1950s simply say, "I will continue to pursue the investigation. This case remains open and the mystery remains unsolved." My sources were Wikipedia, Kansas City Magazine, Kansas City Public Library, and the January 8th, 1938 edition of The New Yorker.
My gosh. Both of them were unsolved.
Unsolved, crazy
19-year-old
mysteries.
situations going on there too.
Mm-hmm. Crazy mysteries.
Man, I want both of these to solved. I need them both to get solved.
It's just weird. He was naked. There was nothing to identify him. And then...
And he was using fake names.
Yes, and he was using fake names. There was a question of when they used the word Don. Some people were like, maybe he was involved with the mafia, and they were talking about a mafia Don. But that just seems, it could be. I don't know. No one knows.
Yeah, no one knows. I mean, but that person was named Don.
No one found out who Louise was. It did say that he was with someone named Don Kelso. There was some guy that was picked up in a cab at one point who was bleeding and was like, "If I ever see that guy again, I'll kill him." And they logged that, but obviously, like, the guy was already, I mean, he died. So
right.
It's hard to say what, they had a few suspects, but really none of them came to fruition. Like, anyway, I just was baffled by this one. I was looking around at a different case, and then this came up as a mystery, and then I started diving into it, and I was so curious. I will post the pictures on our Instagram page, and you'll see this has been a mystery. I mean, it was a year and a half later when they put it in the American Weekly. Like, this was something that stuck with people, especially in Kansas City, Kansas.
Yeah, obviously. This is crazy.
And it spread all over the place enough for it was a woman who is his cousin that showed it to Ruby, and Ruby was like, "That is my son." And you'll see it's like a triangle shaped, like 4-inch by, like, I don't know, 3-inch bald spot on the side of his head. So you can really see that scar. It's like very distinctive. That's why for sure that was her son. It's just wild to me, and good on her to, like, be her own investigator and try really hard. And a lot of people have tried to solve this case doing their own research. There's been a lot of amateur sleuths out there trying to figure it out, and no one has. And no one came forward after that time that, in 2003 that they contacted the library. That man never called back. Nobody ever brought in this box of things that contained something written in the article. We don't know anything.
I just am speechless because it's so mysterious and I just want answers.
I know, both of us left us with so many questions. Well, that was our 50th episode. So we're going to leave you frustrated and wanting more. And the good news is we will be back next week.
We will be back next week with maybe a solved or maybe an unsolved case. You just don't know. We'll keep you on your toes.
I always prefer solved murders.
Obviously, me too, because it's
I mean, not just like in general that I want to, I'm like so curious, and sometimes these leave me more frustrated than not, and I'm so frustrated.
But I like to get it out there because you just never know who's listening, and somebody's like, oh shoot, I actually have the answer to that. To quote freaking Robert Stack, where he goes, it could be you.
Just like what happened though, those people on the Reddit thread, like
Exactly.
You never know. They could be like, I remember my uncle saying that they knew this guy from this weird hotel room murder, or I found this box of things, and actually bring it to the police. You know, who knows what you're going to find from it, but a little frustrating. I get it. We are going to be back next Monday. New episodes out every Monday. We are going to be back next Monday with more stories for you. Please, if you have any cases that you want to talk about, or you have some crazy uncle story, send us your message on our DMs on Instagram, because we read every single one of them and we want to know more from you.
Yes, please.
Like and subscribe our podcast on any of your listening platforms. And please give us as many stars as you think we deserve.
Yes, and if you want to give us a review, please do.
Yeah.
Those are so appreciated.
It goes really far. And
I mean, if you think we suck and you want to leave that kind of review, I mean, I guess yes, but why are you listening at this point?
Maybe
wink,
constructive
wink.
criticism would be preferred.
I am a crier, so don't make me cry.
Yeah.
Erin's not a crier. I'm a crier.
I don't know. I'm kind of a crier these days.
Well, that's right. So don't make her cry either.
Yeah, don't make me cry.
This is new for her.
I'm perimenopausal. I don't understand any of these newfound emotions. I hate it. Anyway, I'm going to go have a hot flash and be angry. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So we will see you next week. Be there, be square.
Yeah. See, she's back with all the corny. I didn't have to be corny this episode because she took the reins.
I nailed it.
She did.
Anyway.
Nailed it.
We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you so much. Follow up on our Instagram, and we'll see you next week. Bye.